everyone. You found Sanctuary's Team Talk. This is a virtual interview series where you, the listener, can learn more about the women behind Sanctuary Magazine. My name is Myrna Haskell. I'm executive editor of Sanctuary Magazine. And in case you're not familiar, this is an online publication for women that empowers and inspires with a focus on the arts, humanitarian pursuits, health and wellness, inspirational travel, career, and finance. You can find us at sanctuary-magazine.com. This morning, my guest is Carol Lippert Gray. She is an award-winning PR professional and longtime writer and editor, but more importantly, she is co-associate editor of Sanctuary Magazine. Good morning, Carol. How are you?
Good morning. I'm fine. How are you?
I'm good too, and I love doing this. I have to tell you, this is so much fun for me because I know how great it is to work with you ladies, but I want to let listeners know a little bit more about you so that they can see what makes us gel so well and what makes the magazine what it is, because we are a community, right?
We are, definitely.
Yeah. So well, first of all, I wanted to ask you, how is it down in sunny Florida?
It's been a mixed bag, actually. It's been raining much more than usual. It's been extremely windy, but the beautiful days are magnificent.
I know. And as I'm sure you know, it's been a bit cold up this way.
It's not cold. It's not snowing. I'm good.
Yeah, that's great. Well, today it's pushing 60, so it's a little better. And before we got on, you told me get out there and get some fresh air. So I think I'm going to do that. But the way I like to start these is to let listeners know how we met. So I think it's super cool how we met. So I used to write for Carol. So back in the day when I was writing about parenting teens and children's health and development, Carol was an editor for one of the magazines with the New Jersey magazine group, New Jersey Family. And I wrote for her for many years, actually. Yes. And we talked on the phone, I think, once or twice, and we had a lot of email back and forth. But we finally met in person in New York City. I think that was only like maybe 2.5 years ago or so. Yes. And we were like, we can't believe we never met at this point. But, you know, I asked her if she would be willing to write for us. And I can't tell you how thrilled I was when you said yes, because we had such a seamless relationship and an easy working relationship, and we still do. And I feel like sometimes we read each other's minds. Like you'll have these ideas and I'm like, oh my God, either I wish I thought of that, or I thought I thought of that, but I didn't do it. Now Carol said to do it, so we're doing it. But anyway, I just want to let everybody know how much I cherish you and I appreciate your work for the magazine.
I love doing it. And you can do this whole interview because I really like asking the questions. I know, and you have to, but
you know what, Carol? I'm up next, so I'm going to have to sit there and listen the next time around. So, but anyway, I know you're so used to being the interviewer. But anyway, I wanted to start out by asking you, you've had a long career in the industry, so I was wondering if you wanted to share one or two special moments during your career or things you're most proud of.
One of the most special moments during my career was when I was the PR person at the Seeing Eye Dog Guide School in Morristown, New Jersey. It was 1994, and Betty White came for a week to work with us. And because I was the PR person, I was her contact person, and I spent the week with her. And we recorded a PSA, and I can't believe that I was directing Betty White on video, and she was so gracious and took the instruction like a pro. Everybody knows she was a huge animal lover, and the focus of the PSA was the puppy raising program, and those are children and teenagers who raise the puppies till they're old enough to become seeing eye dogs. And she got into the room with all the kids and the puppies, got on the floor with them, was playing with them. At this point, she was like in her mid-70s. Was playing with them.
Well, look at the full life she had, right? I mean, no wonder. She had a joyful life. It sounds like it showed when you worked with her.
She was so lovely and gracious to everyone. She took a picture with everybody on the staff, and there were about 150 people on the staff. And she stood there, I don't know how many hours it took, because I was snapping all the pictures.
Oh my goodness. Oh, that must have been so special for you.
Yeah,
she was really such a gifted actress special. And with such good timing. And her soul sort of came through. I've seen her in interviews, and you could tell what a genuine human being she was, you know?
Yes.
Oh, that's great. Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah.
So let me ask you though, next, we always do a few of these fun questions. So I'm dying to hear answers. Listeners, I do not know these answers, just so you know, disclosure there. What's your earliest memory?
My earliest memory was when I was probably no more than 3. And I was at the beach with my mother and her extended female family. She came from a huge matriarchy. And I was playing at the shoreline and a wave knocked me over. And I was just floating there and I had my eyes open. It was beautiful. The water was beautiful. The sand was beautiful. The light on the water and the sand were beautiful. I wasn't scared.
You weren't panicked.
No, I didn't know enough to be panicked.
Right.
And the lifeguard came and scooped me up and ran me over to this line of hysterical women on the beach. It was my mother and her family. And that's when I, and he handed me to the wrong one. He handed me to her cousin instead of my mother. And that's when I lost it.
So did that, that's so cool though. You gave a really good visual there. I could picture a child who doesn't know to be frightened is getting that sensory sort of overload and beauty at once, right?
It was quiet. I was floating. It was beautiful.
And so though they panicked, I mean, we would have too, right? I mean, I can imagine as a mother, I had a similar thing with my son going towards the water and I'm helping my infant daughter and there he's toddling off, and my husband and I were so focused on my daughter that we didn't realize my 2-year-old was toddling off towards the lake, But so we can imagine that now, right? But I'm wondering, did that make you afraid of the water at all later in life or now?
I love the water.
Okay, you still love the water. Well, that's good. That's good. Because I know sometimes those experiences when the adults panic sets in, sometimes then the children become super afraid of whatever that is, that had happened. But so I'm glad that didn't happen to you. But anyways, this one I'm dying to hear. What was your worst job over the course of the years?
My worst job was my first job out of college. I was a benefit authorizer for the Social Security Administration. And it was every cliche about bureaucracy you can imagine. The office was in a room about a square block in size with just these rows of gray desks and gray chairs and gray people.
Depressing.
And our function was to either adjust or assign the benefits people would get every month. And there was a formula that you followed to do this. And then you would send them notices in the mail informing them of the adjustment or the payment amount or whatever it was. And there was a manual, I swear it was about this thick. You can't see both hands, it's this thick, with just stock phrases, because it was the early days of computing and you would just plug these stock phrases into these form letters. And there was no room for explanation. There was no room to amplify anything. And you would just, do these forms all day, putting phrases into form letters.
And people on the other end were probably apoplectic about it, right? Because they get the little 3-word thing and go, what?
But it was interesting too, because you would get these files with people's life stories. You discovered men who had multiple families and nobody knew till they died and everybody filed for benefits.
Yeah, I've heard of that happening, yes. Oh my goodness. So how long
there was a soap opera aspect. Excuse me?
How long did you last there? Because you're such a creative person and you love the arts. We've talked about this at length. I mean, I've had jobs like that. That were these you must have been dying inside, right?
I was. It was about 2.5 years.
Oh, you lasted 2.5 years. Wow. That's your stick-to-itiveness.
Well, I was putting my husband through medical school. I was the breadwinner. And I had to stick it out.
And you had to stick with it, with the gray walls and the stacks and the little 3
the binders full of nonsense.
Oh boy. Oh my goodness. Okay. Well, now we're going to get a little more creative. You ready? So if you were to write your autobiography, what would the title be?
Oh my God. I'm still here.
I'm still here. I love that. I love that. Yes, you're still here. Thank God. I'm one of those that says, thank God Carol's still here because I need her desperately. Yes, you've had, I just, I probably could talk to you all day. I can talk all day anyway. I don't know if that's a good thing or a fault, probably a little of both, but yeah, I mean, you've just had so many things throughout your life. And isn't that what it's all about though? just, you get your downs and your ups. You know, if you're down, you have to pick yourself up and you keep going. And
You have to
you
be
know, and I know
resilient.
you're a mother like I am too. And you have, and I think our experience as mothers too really sets that for us, because we need to be there for our children even when they're adults, even though the relationship changes. And so no matter what's going on with us, we just keep going and keep going and keep going as women, don't we?
We do. We do. And you have to be resilient. You have to be able to change. You have to be able to stop on a dime and pivot.
Yeah. Have you, I don't know this for sure. Have you written a book, Carol, at all, or no?
I have not written my own book. I've edited a couple for other people. Very early on, I would say in the late 70s or early 80s, I wrote the text for Weight Watchers 365-day cookbook.
Really?
Not the recipes, just the text.
Oh, that's great. I didn't know that.
That was a lot of fun.
Yeah. Do you ever think of doing something like that? Writing something?
I do constantly.
Yeah. You know, it's
And,
one of those things, it's a huge undertaking, right? So it's one of those things where you probably want to know that you can be focused on it, you know, if you're going to do it. Not that you can't do multiple things, because we all do, but it is a huge undertaking and
you
stuff.
need a new and unique, fresh idea.
And you want something, yes, but I would love for you to do something. I would read it. So anyway, Carol, I wanted to talk a little shop with you, since we've both been on all different sides of the industry, right?
Right.
So as an editor, and you are a longtime editor too, is there anything you want to share about, you know, something that's very difficult that's either in the day-to-day or weekly part of the life of an editor? What do you find personally is difficult?
Well, I think probably the biggest thing is being bound by deadlines and working with people who cannot or will not meet them. And you want to tear your hair out.
Now, did you have, now sharing truthfully, I never have to worry about Carol ever with the deadline. And I want to say, I don't think you ever had to worry about me either, because I was really good with the deadlines.
You were good with the deadlines and you were good with the words.
But I also have had that problem. And it's like, so how do you feel? So I know that I feel a total, like, you know, a loss of control, you know, over the fact that you have something planned and now it's not there.
Exactly.
And lots of times there's not much you can do about it.
And other people are expecting to have it on time. Your readers are expecting it to be there.
I know. So do you, without naming names or saying specifically what it was, do you have like a funny story about something that, you know, happened last minute that you had to scramble to be like really creative and figure something out at the end?
No, not that I remember, because I'm also very organized and very anal about certain things and always had backup. Yes.
I will, full disclosure, I haven't always had backup. And I've had to scramble. You know, it's kind of hard. So we're a small, you know, we're a team of contractors, right, at Sanctuary. And if it weren't for the absolute professionalism and wonderful work that I get from my writers, my regular writers that write for us, you know, I just couldn't do it, because there's just too many balls in the air, you know, with a small team. And I always start the year hoping that I'm going to have more lead time. And I'm better now than I was 6 years ago, but it's still, when you're, and you've been editor of a magazine, when you're the one that has all the balls in the air and has to worry about all these other pieces besides your own pieces, like when it's just me and I have to get something in, I'm going to get it in. I know what I have to do time-wise. I know, you know, I usually reread it 1,500 times or whatever it is before I send it, but that's the way things go. Well, all of a sudden you feel that lack of control, right?
Yes.
I had one time as a writer, this was earlier in the computer days, and thank God this was for an editor that used my work all the time. We had a really good relationship and I never missed a deadline. And actually I didn't this time either, but I thought I was going to for the first time. My computer went kaput. I don't even remember now what exactly happened, because I live with somebody who's a computer guy. So he eventually fixed it. But my computer went kaput and I had to call her because I lost my document. I didn't have it printed out. And the funny thing is I was apologizing and apologizing and apologizing because it was a feature. And I'm like, oh my God, I could have sent it to her earlier, but I was just mucking with it, making it perfect kind of thing. You know what I mean? And she had lead time. She didn't ask me to send it the day before it was going to be published, obviously, but I just was so anal about it because I never missed a deadline. And do you know, she was totally wonderful about it. I couldn't stand it. The computer got back on and I sat for the next 6 hours. And because I had reread the piece so many times, even though I had nothing, I had lost some stuff that hadn't been saved. That doesn't happen to me anymore. I learned my lesson. But I was able to rewrite it. And I think it came out better than I had it the first time. I don't know if it was the pressure or the fact that I was going to let somebody down or what it was. So I, to this day, knock on wood, can say I never missed a deadline. Sanctuary either, you know, I mean, Sanctuary has to get out there, you know,
Yes.
and so, but I have scrambled a couple of times, you know, it's tough. I think, you know, it's, and as you said, you're so organized and you would be so prepared that you would sort of have things in the bucket that you could pull out if something went awry, like the last minute and stuff like that. But that's really what you're doing. It's, I think people that aren't part of the industry don't realize how many different aspects there are to getting that final product out there, you know, and waiting for photo credits. And then I've gotten things where, you know, the quality of the photos aren't good enough. You know, they have that sort of pixeled like look because they're not at 300 PPI or whatever it needs to be. And, you know, so it's all of those little tiny things that come into it. Yeah. Or now even with the digital world, right? There's all these issues with the digital world and clients out there, email clients, website clients, where they have stuff that goes down and then it's affecting your product. So and that's what stresses me out too, I think.
Yeah. And in a recent assignment, I had 2 of the people I wanted to interview had COVID.
See?
So, you know, fortunately, they felt well enough just at the wire to do the story with me.
I know. See, that's why it's always good. I know you have some things coming up for Sanctuary that you're going to want to mention, but that's why it's always good to have them done early, right? If you can get the person, right? Sometimes we interview these women though, right? That are like, it's really hard to batten them down for a date. That's the other thing, isn't it? That's more of a writer's thing, but editors do it too, because they're writing some of the features or whatever. But, you know, sometimes dates keep changing, you know. You're on
and a lot of the people we interview are very busy. You know, they have their own schedules and deadlines.
Yes, absolutely. And then things change, or they have to travel, or, you know, exhibit things come up, or whatever it is, you know, along the line. Yeah. So you have to have that buffer, right? Yeah. But yeah, those deadlines and just living on the edge every month, if it's a monthly, right? I actually know, I don't know if you do, but I know several editors who their stuff is still in print, but they've gone from that monthly to either, you know, a bi-monthly or a quarterly magazine. Mm-hmm. And I think it's people that have been in the industry for decades. And I think they just, you know, after a while it's that constant pressure at the end of the month. You know, I was talking to Cornelia Seckel, the publisher of the Art Times, about this a little while ago. And she was like, I just like lived for that almost. She goes, I knew I'd be crazy at the end of the month, but it was just my thing. So I love that we can relate that way though, Carol.
It's nice when you have people who speak the same language.
So what's up for you and Sanctuary? What's coming from Carol Lippert Gray for Sanctuary in the next month?
Coming up in March is a very exciting piece about a new, it started out being called a modeling agency, but now it's being called a modeling collective called Celebrate the Gray, based in California. And it's women 50 and above with gray hair and no facial work. And because advertisers want to be more inclusive and diversified now, and they're looking for people in that demographic. So I'm interviewing the woman who started Celebrate the Gray. And I have some very other exciting pieces in the pipeline, but I don't want to spoil it. I want people to.
Okay, so we'll just, so we won't. We'll look for Celebrate the Gray, but whatever you write, Carol, it's always fabulous. And it's always heartfelt. And so we'll look for that next month. But anyway, thank you so much for being here with me today. I just
My
love doing these
pleasure.
team talks. I think that it's a way that we show that even though we ask our readers and our listeners to share part of themselves, we're willing to do it too, right? So we are a true community, and I love that about the magazine. But thank you, and
Thank
I'll be
you.
talking to you very, very soon.
I'll see you around.
Thanks. So I'll close as I always do by wishing all of our listeners and our readers good health, happiness, and continued inspiration. Thank you so much for joining us.
Cheers to that.